All right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new season of SCTV show part number. It's episode part number 6, but it's a total new segment entirely. And this one is calling, I have been naming it Armwrestling Origin. It is this main purpose of this is that the viewers will get a broader perspective on the athlete that we are interviewing on this types of episodes. The main reason we are doing this is because we feel that the viewers out there can relate to these different athletes that we are going to be bringing to this show whenever we have time. It is almost like how Neil Pickup are doing his episode Deep Inside, but as the saying goes, you can get enough content though. And for the premiere episode for this new segment, we're gonna interview Tobias, Archangel, Sköneus. How have you been doing so far?
Yeah, I've been busy. I've had a rough week. A couple of days ago, I was in a bad car accident. My car got totally smashed. It was not a pretty sight. Myself, I managed to get out of there in one piece, fortunately. I just had to had some painkillers for the past day because my headache is about to explode. But besides that, I have a new car at the moment. I just bought it. I'm on vacation, so I mean that's that. So at the moment, life's been busy, but it's going in the right direction. I'm actually preparing myself at the moment for a travel in Sweden. Going to visit my mother, my siblings, and some friends. And I'm actually going to visit you as well, Craig.
Oh, really? That's
yes.
a big surprise.
Yes, so I'm at the moment preparing my car and my luggage. So today is Saturday, and on Monday my travels begin for a couple of weeks. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, so it's exciting times, and today I'm going to talk to you out there about my life, what I have been through, and like Craig said, our purpose with this is to inspire some of you guys out there, maybe give you a brighter point of view, maybe to let you guys know that not everyone was born an arm wrestler. Because that is something that happens during life, and I would really like to give you my life from what I've been through for this past 25 years. And feel free, please feel free to just listen to this. You don't have to view the video. You can listen to this while you're driving, while you're taking a walk, while you're at the gym. So you don't need to just stare at me and Krieg all the time, even though that is a pretty sight. Yeah, but just relax and enjoy what we have to offer you at the moment. I was born in 1995, the 7th of May in Stockholm. My mother was very young when I came to this world. She was around 21 years old. My father was a little bit older. And what can I say? My first years in Stockholm they were like a normal child's. I had a couple of cars to play with, toy cars, of course. I had my Play-Doh. I had my Legos. Unfortunately, I was born in a family where my father maybe not were the best one. He was an alcoholic. He was on drug misused, and he used to hit my mother and me often. My father didn't have a work to go to. He didn't work at all. He did some favors for some friends back in the day, but nothing more than that. And my mother worked full time as an elderly nurse. I think that's the right expression. This went on a couple of years, for around 6-7 years. And my father used to cheat as well on my mother all the time. And like I said, it was drinking every time. I remember being a kid and laying down in my bed and just wishing my mother to come home. And my father was sitting in the living room and just drinking vodka and all other sorts of liquor. And he was a mean drunk as well. He used to yell at me and kick me and yeah, stuff like that. So one day, around, I don't know, I was maybe 7 or 8 years old or something like that. My mother had enough. So she told my father one night that she wanted a divorce because she didn't want to live like that, and she didn't want me to live in that kind of environment as well. This particular night was a very bad night for her to confront my father because he has been drinking a little bit too much and probably had some drugs as well. So he just stand up and said, "If I can't have you guys, then no one should have you." So he went to her and took her by the throat, and he was about to strangle her to death. And after he was done with that, he was about to kill me as well and set the house on fire and God knows what. For some reason, my father let go of my mother's throat, and he himself called the police and said that there were 3 masked men in the house trying to kill his family. So the police arrived. They of course didn't find anyone. They found, however, some gloves under the stairs that was burned, and they found tons of evidence that pointed that my father was the suspect. So they took him into custody, and my mother went to the hospital. Me myself, I was asleep at this time. I don't think I remember anything. I was very young at that time as well. But I do remember waking up the next day and went out to the living room where my grandmother was sitting. And she said that my mom and dad were on a vacation together. I later found out that that wasn't true, because my mom came home with a big bruise on her neck. And I asked her what had happened. And she said she has been tripping in the forest, which I very quickly understood that that was a lie. However, my father ended up in custody for about 3 months, and then they let him go in lack of evidence, because my mother didn't dare to testify, and there was so much things that was crazy about the investigation. But it did end up in court, everything. So a judge gave my mother full custody of me. I was around 9 or 10, so it has gone like a year or something like that since that night, before a judge said that my father isn't fit to handle a child. And during that time, I actually had to meet him once a week on the weekends, which I didn't want to do. And when the judge gave my mother full custody, my father had abused me quite great, actually. Not sexually, thank God, but he did beat the shit out of me one time. So that ended up to the police, and the police got to the conclusion that my father was too abusive to handle a child. So that's when the judge gave my mother full custody. However, I started to go to school in Stockholm. I went to school for like 3 years, and during these times, my father used to come to school, harass me and harass the teachers. I don't know how many times he were at my school, but it was a difficult time. My mother, however, she met a new guy sometime after that. I don't know how long time it went, but however, a good guy. And it turned out that he was not from Stockholm, because he was born a little bit up north in a place called Söderfors. So we came to with suggestion that we were going to move there. So then when I was in 3rd grade, I said goodbye to my classmates and moved to Söderfors just to get away from my father. And for me, in that time, that was a difficult thing to do. Leave everyone and just start over in a completely strange environment. I mean, for a kid from the big city, I moved way out in the country. You know, that was the first time I saw a horse and a cow walking around freely. Yes, and I didn't fit well in my new school because I was a kid from Stockholm who was moving to the countryside. And I did not get accepted by the other kids. I got bullied for a couple of years. The situation at home were difficult. My mother, she really tried her best, and I really didn't get along with my new father. We had different opinions about like everything. So like I said, I was bullied for a couple of years, and when I started high school, I decided that I'm not going to be bullied anymore. So I myself started to get into big troubles. I started to fight. I started to hang around some bad people. I'm not going to go into details on that, but it was not a good time for me. And I did that for a year and a half. And unfortunately, at one point, I got in a big trouble with one of the older kids at the school. And it ended up in a fight where he fought, I didn't. So he beat the living crap out of me. And this was during the school time as well. It was in the hallway at my school. Teachers and students and everyone was a witness to this. So they saw me nearly got beaten to death at that day. So I spent like a week or something like that in the hospital with some big injuries. I was it nearly killed me. After that, I decided that I don't want to be I don't want to be the big bad guy anymore, and I don't want to be the soft and scared guy as well. So I actually went underground for like a year. I didn't do anything except playing my video games. I didn't work out. I didn't took walks. I nearly spent any time with any other human being. It was just me for that year. And for training in general, I've been doing some tennis practice for a couple of years during this time in high school. I think I played for 2 or 3 years, but tennis was never really my thing. I tried soccer as well, didn't work out. I tried to run, and for those of you out there probably know, running is a bitch. So that didn't work out as well. And after this year, I actually got in contact with a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, who said that, yeah, maybe you should come to church and spend some time with kids that are equal to yourself. And I was skeptical. I was very, very skeptical. Because I didn't want to go to church. I mean, only the crazy kids and those lunatics go to church. I mean, am I right? So I actually I refused to go to church. But this guy, he was on my neck for time and time, and he just said, "But come on, it will be fun. I promise. Just one night, you'll have a blast." So after some time, I accepted his invitation and went with him to church, and I met tons of new friends. It was one of the most relieved night in my life. I never felt so accepted by anyone. So that was a big thing for me. So I started to go to church every Friday night. We were doing some activities, played games, had something that we call Swedish fika, where we take some cookies, some lemonade, soda, coffee, you name it, and just talked. And I got to know all these fantastic people. And during the New Year's, there was a camp with the church and other churches as well. So I accepted to go to one of those camps up north. And that was the turning point in my life. That's where I found my belief in God. I got to meet more friends that I still have great contact with. So that was the turning point for me. I never cried so much that ever like I did that night, because it was so relieved. I felt so loved. I felt so welcomed. So that was great. And that was actually one of the first times in my life where I prayed as well. And I remember sitting there in that bench and just put my hands together and said, God, please, I'm in so much pain. I am so angry. I just need something to help me get rid of all these aggressions that I have in my body. And here is where the beautiful part starts, in my opinion. Because after this, it took around 9 months. Same time as it does during a normal pregnancy. So for me, that 9 months were the beginning of my rebirth. Because in September in 2010 or 11, I got the invitation of starting to arm wrestle in a club that was just around the block from where I lived. And I was like, arm wrestling? Can you really train and compete in that? Because I've done some arm wrestling before at school. Just that kind of arm wrestling. And I was pretty good at it. There was not much people who could defeat me in school. But I was skeptical. I mean, I tried tennis, I tried soccer. I mean, sports is not for me, was my strongly opinion. But just exactly that night, the 9th of September, I was sitting in my room and I knew that there was a training going on just around the block. And I had nothing to do. I felt so bored. I mean, none of my video games seemed to entertain anymore. So I decided to, I'll just go around the block and see what it's all about. So I went there, met my coach, and tried to arm wrestle for the first time in my entire life, for real. And I was so bad at it. I was ridiculously weak. And I understood that this is nothing for me. This isn't normal behavior for a normal person. So I actually thought during my first setup that this is not me. But during my second grip up, I understood that this was fascinating. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but there was something in this whole experience that just seemed to attract me so much. So I continued to go to the training, and I have been arm wrestling ever since, and I have had a great competitions with friends and with myself. But just because I started to arm wrestle didn't mean that my entire life was going to be better. I actually had a tough time during arm wrestling as well, mostly from home. During school I got attention because my classmates thought it was cool that I did arm wrestling, and they wanted to arm wrestle all the time, and they wanted to have tips and tricks and everything like that. So everyone in school knew who I was in a matter of 3 months or something like that, and everyone knew who I was. So that was kind of fun. But my situation at home didn't become any better. I got in big arguments with my stepdad. We didn't agree on much. And actually came to the point a couple of times where he kicked me out of the house. So I was homeless for a couple of days at a time. But I was still going to church. I was still doing arm wrestling. It took me like 3 years or something like that before I took my first gold medal in a competition in a place called Sköneus.
I was there.
Yes, you were there and you were filming that match as well. It was a crazy intensive match. I felt so little against the guy that I was pulling at the finals. Greatest feeling in the world when I stood at the highest of that podium. Never felt so powerful in my entire life. So after that victory in 2013, I just continued to win competitions, and I just competed and I competed. Some competitions I won, some competitions I didn't. I went to the Worlds, I went to the Nationals, I went to Europeans, I went everywhere. Greatest days of my life. Until one night when I got in a very, very big argument with my stepdad, and he threatened to kill me. I don't want to go into details on what happened, but it wasn't pretty. So that night I decided that I need to get out of here. I can't be here anymore. And that was the second time in my entire life where I actually prayed and 110% meant it. And I prayed that God would just take me away from here. And that now comes the beautiful thing again. 9 months later after that prayer, I got the opportunity to move south to go to a Bible school in a town called Jönköping. So I took that opportunity and I moved there. And I still arm wrestled. I still competed, and I started to train with the club down in Jönköping while I was studying theology. And that was a great time for me. It was a big experience, and it was a big challenge as well. First time you're around 19 years old, you're on your own, you have your own place, you need to take care of yourself, you need to take care of your studies. Yes, that was a very great time, and I met wonderful people who I still have contact with, by the way. So it was a great year. It was a great year for me. After that, I got the opportunity to move to Gothenburg to work as a youth leader for the church. Same mission that I had when I was going to church myself as a teenager. So now it was my time to plan camps and meet teenagers who had it rough. So I did that for around 3 years, and I started to compete for Gothenburg arm wrestling. I got the opportunity to put my mark in that club, and today I am the president of that club. So it's been a great year for that. Done so much, competed so much. But back to arm wrestling. I mean, I would never have started arm wrestling if I didn't give myself the opportunity to go. Because at first I didn't want to go. I didn't want to arm wrestle. I didn't want to work out. But I just had to take that step to allow myself to change my life. And sometimes I do regret it, just because of the pain that you endure. It's a crazy pain that you put yourself through. But otherwise, I love arm wrestling. I mean, arm wrestling literally saved my life. I can promise you that I would not have been alive if I didn't start arm wrestling. Either I would have ended up in a big fight where I didn't win, or I would take my own life. I mean, it was one or the other. So if I didn't start to arm wrestle, then I wouldn't be alive today. That I know is true. Yes, and of course, life isn't always a dance on roses, like the old Swedish expression says. I don't know if you say that internationally, but life isn't easy. I mean, sometimes things are going to hit you down. Sometimes you're going to feel so lonely, so sad, so angry. But my tip to you is just to remember why you started. Remember what gives you purpose in life. For me, when my life feels sad and empty, and when I feel very angry, I just remember that night, 9th of September, when I started to go to arm wrestling. I took the big step, and I allowed myself to feel something. And today I sit here, I have 3 national titles, I have 3 Nordic titles. Unfortunately, I don't have a world title yet, but I'm working on it. But I'm the president of one of the greatest club in Sweden, in my opinion, of course. I have very good teammates, I have beautiful friends all around Sweden, thanks to arm wrestling. And I know that everyone likes me. The ones who, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful community, beautiful family. So that's my life in short. So if a scared little guy from Stockholm who lived up in the countryside, who got abused, who got beaten, can start to arm wrestle and feel great, then you could as well. So I really hope that you have enjoyed listening to this. If you have any questions or any opinions, feel free to point that in the comment section. What do you think, Krieg? And now you have sitting there and listened to my crazy story. Do you have anything that you want to add, or anything you want to ask?
In my honest opinion, you are a true inspiration for the Swedish arm wrestling community. Mostly, not only as an arm wrestler, but how you are lecturing for young little kids that are on the same path or are going to the same path, and with how you are portraying your life experiences to them, it puts them more to the right path.
Exactly. So, I mean, I know how it is to feel lonely. I know how it is to feel bad. So I mean, if I can help 1 or 2, or just help someone to feel better about themselves, to know that it is okay to feel bad, and it is okay to have rough times. I mean, then everything that I've been through has been worth it. And the most beautiful thing is that my life isn't, my story isn't finished just yet. I mean, I'm 25 years old, and I have experienced a lot. And I mean, I still experience things to this day. I mean, just a couple of days ago, I survived a car accident. I mean, that part will be in this history in the future. Today is one of my present. I mean, it's something that I struggle with today, to overcome this situation. And I mean, it isn't easy. I mean, surviving a car accident is, it's a big thing. If you have ever experienced a car accident, then you know exactly what I mean.
I have not been in one, but I have seen one up close. So.
Yeah, and it's a scary thing. It's a very scary thing. So I mean, that is something that is happening in my life as well. So I mean, I'd be glad to tell you about it someday. But for this time being, I just wanted to tell you everything that I've been through my younger years.
But that concludes the first episode. And if you want to see more of this type of content, be sure to leave a thumbs up and comment down below if you have a similar experience that you want to share in the comment section, and I will gladly join the discussion with you there. So, and if you want to subscribe for more content, click the little bell for a notification and share this video around. If you want to share this story to others that are in the same path as Tobias has been telling us so far. And with that concludes the first episode, and I wish you a nice day, stay safe, don't be a and keep being awesome.